Islet is a prodigy. One of the men insists that his child must become an alchemist, declaring that he will teach her to the best of his abilities. A woman counters him, claiming that the girl was born to become a legendary chef, and that she will guide her toward that destiny. Another woman dismisses both of them, calling their ambitions nonsense. She insists that the child should instead learn to serve tea to the nobility, so she can establish connections and eventually find a suitable partner. She tells the others to step aside and leave the responsibility to her. Despite their clashing visions, the three of them are quite literally fighting over who will take responsibility for Islet. Meanwhile, the little girl herself is recovering, quietly receiving all the love and affection being poured onto her. She rightfully deserves it, for she is no ordinary child. She is an asset class transmigrator. The age of transmigration has arrived. This is not the introduction to a webtoon or a fictional novel. Across the country, there has been a massive increase in deaths and missing person cases. Although no definitive links have been established, experts are raising alarms about safety awareness, urging people to remain cautious and alert. The phenomenon of transmigration has become a source of chaos and panic, especially across the internet. Some claim that transmigration itself is the cost behind these mysterious occurrences. While such statements can easily be dismissed as baseless speculation, there is evidence that suggests otherwise. A single, chilling commonality appears in the phone records of every individual who has died during this period. Each of them received a spam message recommending a life insurance package, just like Islet. In what feels like her final moments, she lies in the aftermath of an accident. Pain overwhelms her as she calls out desperately for her mother, her father, and her brother. In the midst of her fading consciousness, a message appears before her, informing her that she has been insured and urging her to wake up. Eventually, she opens her eyes. She glances around in confusion, her surroundings unfamiliar and surreal. Her eyes widen as she takes everything in. In front of her, screens display strange information, one of them labeling something as a revolutionary Princess Eve with a difficulty rating of F. Nearby, she hears someone informing another girl that her transmigration assessment results have arrived, and that she has been assigned a novel with F-class difficulty. The girl reacts with joy. Islet watches, completely bewildered. She wonders what this transmigration assessment could possibly mean. At that moment, someone approaches her and addresses her directly, referring to her as a reader and calling out a sequence of numbers, as though identifying her turn. She looks around, confused, trying to understand what is happening. Then she notices something even stranger, a small puppy. The puppy calmly introduces itself as an assessor from the Assessment Division of the Transfiguration Bureau. It explains that Islet is, in fact, dead, and that this place is the afterlife. The realization stuns her. The puppy continues its explanation, stating that the gods who oversee the public infrastructure of the afterlife have recently developed a strong interest in story-based content. Just as novels on Earth are adapted into comics, games, and films, the gods possess the power to create entirely new worlds, what they call dimensional linked worlds. They have now succeeded in sending the souls of deceased individuals from Earth into these constructed dimensions. However, not every soul is selected for transmigration. Since Islet has been summoned to the afterlife much earlier than her predetermined lifespan, she is considered a likely candidate. The puppy then asks whether she has a preferred genre. Islet remains silent for a moment, processing everything. Finally, she gathers her thoughts and expresses her preference. She wishes to enter a childcare fantasy romance. Childcare fantasy romance novels. That is all Islet desires. In her mind, her woeful and difficult life has already come to an end, and she sees no reason not to enjoy a smooth and peaceful afterlife. As an avid reader who has consumed every genre imaginable, romance, fantasy romance, martial arts, BL, GL, and even R-rated novels, she knows exactly what she is choosing. Among all possibilities, a childcare fantasy romance stands out as the least dangerous path, a life of ease and comfort, and one that is practically guaranteed to be stable. To her, it is the best genre of all time. She launches into a rapid and passionate explanation, making her case to the puppy with unwavering certainty. She emphasizes her desire to leave behind her frustrating past life and be reborn as the protagonist of a childcare fantasy story. In such a world, she believes she will finally understand what genuine familial love feels like. She assures the puppy that she will play her role perfectly and without complaint. The puppy listens, then calmly states that her preference will be taken into account. It asks her to wait a moment. Shortly after, it announces that her assessment has been completed and instructs her to refer to the screen for the results. When Islet looks up, she freezes. The title displayed before her reads, "When I Return to Save the World." Her difficulty rating is S. The puppy explains that this is an asset class designation, something with only a 0.001% probability of appearing, and offers its congratulations. Others nearby begin to murmur in amazement, pointing out that she has received an asset class assignment. They remark on the novel itself, recalling how Infinite Return to Save the World is filled with immense suffering. Ailette's heart sinks. She recognizes the novel instantly. The moment she sees its title, the memories come rushing back. The story is set in a world on the brink of destruction, brought to ruin by the sudden emergence of dungeons connected to the demon realm. In order to save that collapsing world, the protagonist, a devoted member of a holy order, is forced to die over and over again, reliving the same struggle endlessly. The repetition is merciless, the suffering unending, and the narrative itself notoriously frustrating. Desperate for clarity, she asks which character she will become within that story. The puppy responds that, given her fondness for childcare narratives, she will be transmigrated as a cute little girl. It even adds, almost cheerfully, that she will have pink hair. It continues, explaining that she will live in the mansion of a neighboring noble family, one that mistreats the protagonist. She will be the daughter of a servant, someone exploited by a corrupt and arrogant household. At that moment, Ailette cannot help but think that being transmigrated into a random tree would be preferable to such a fate. The puppy, however, urges her not to delay the process, reminding her that others are waiting in line and asking her to proceed through the gate. It reassures her that once she is transmigrated, the barrier system will provide assistance. Then, suddenly, the puppy pauses. It realizes something it had previously overlooked. Ailette is the first purchaser of the Transmigration Assurance full package. Because of this, it assures her she has nothing to worry about. Ailette, utterly confused, questions what that even means. The puppy explains that it is no surprise she has been assigned an S-class scenario. She possesses the full package. Around them, whispers begin to spread as others react with envy, astonished that she has such an advantage. Yet Ailette herself has no idea what she has supposedly purchased. The puppy, pressed for time, insists that they cannot hold up the line any longer. It announces that her transmigration will now begin, and offers a final blessing, wishing that the protection of the gods be with her. And so, the process starts. As she is drawn toward the gate, Ailette shouts in frustration, pleading for someone, anyone, to explain things to her properly. But her voice fades as the world around her dissolves, and her transmigration begins. Transportation insurance full package benefits are granted, and she has received the mandatory tutorial. A blessing of extreme growth and a one-time cash deal are included within the mandatory tutorial. The process initiates before the novel's timeline begins, and the difficulty has been set to F for the duration of the tutorial. Her actions remain restricted according to the system's conditions. The novel itself is set within an infinite time loop, and the timeline will be adjusted to align with the normal flow upon completion of the tutorial. The system requests patience as the process requires time to finalize. Finally, Ailette opens her eyes and immediately wonders why the surroundings are so noisy. She slowly sits up, her thoughts gathering as realization dawns upon her. She recalls that she has died, and after her death, a peculiar and wicked entity had sent her to this place. The memory feels surreal, yet undeniable. Driven by urgency, she rushes to look into a mirror, needing confirmation that this is not an illusion. The reflection staring back at her proves that it is real. She has truly transmigrated. The system announces that synchronization is complete, and that she is now Ailette. She studies her reflection closely, and cannot help but think that she is as pretty as a doll. Without hesitation, she accepts her new reality, and spends a considerable amount of time admiring her appearance. Nearly 10 minutes pass in quiet fascination, before a more practical thought interrupts her. She begins to question the significance of her situation. Despite her beauty, she has become a little girl, and this is not a story centered on child-rearing or innocence. She recalls the setting of the novel and understands her position within it. She is the daughter of a servant who works for a noble, one of the many nobles who bully and mistreat the protagonist. Numerous villains exist in this story, all contributing to the suffering of the protagonist. Realizing this, she understands the importance of identifying exactly which household she has been placed in. Suddenly, a flash crosses her mind, and she experiences a vivid glimpse of the future. She sees a complete view of the manor, and even acquires a detailed map of its layout. As she processes this information, she notices the presence of the spoiled son of the Count. Recognition comes instantly. She remembers him clearly, the arrogant young lord who plays a significant role in the narrative. Although he is born into a family renowned for its exceptional swordsmen, He lacks genuine skill with the sword. Unable to meet expectations, he resorts to purchasing his title as a knight. Despite his incompetence, he believes himself capable of conquering a dungeon alone. His overconfidence nearly leads to his death, but he is ultimately saved by the kind-hearted protagonist. The protagonist, humble by nature, does not seek any reward for this act of heroism. However, the Count insists on repaying the favor and brings the protagonist to the county of Islet. From that point onward, the narrative alternates between the villainous, spoiled young lord and the naive, trusting protagonist. The outcome becomes painfully predictable. The young lord treats the protagonist like a mere mercenary, issuing orders without respect, only to abandon him once they arrive at the county. Shortly after the protagonist departs from the Count's castle, a dungeon break occurs. Demonic creatures pour forth, wreaking havoc and devastating the entire region. It is remembered as a long and frustrating chapter, made worse by the fact that the eventual consequences for the young lord are surprisingly mild. Ailette reflects on this knowledge with a growing sense of urgency. She understands that she could potentially avoid the impending catastrophe, perhaps by leaving this country altogether. However, she also realizes that disasters of this magnitude are not confined to a single place. Even if she escapes, similar events could occur elsewhere, making her situation far more complex than a simple act of avoidance. The true problem soon becomes clear to Ailette. The dungeons are spreading across the continent like malignant tumors, appearing without warning and consuming everything in their path. These outbreaks are not confined to a single region. They can manifest anywhere, at any time, and each occurrence threatens countless lives. Within the original narrative, she herself is fated to die once the story properly begins. This realization weighs heavily on her, as survival is far from guaranteed. She reflects on how different things might have been if she had memorized the novel in its entirety. It frustrates her to admit that her knowledge is incomplete. Though she remembers key events, she lacks the detailed certainty that would allow her to navigate every danger flawlessly. She thinks back to her past life, recalling how she once immersed herself in infinite returns to save the world during her middle school years. Even then, she had not anticipated that such knowledge would one day determine her survival. With a hint of irritation, she directs her thoughts toward the system, silently questioning its limitations. She wonders why not all transmigrators retain perfect memory of the novels they enter. If she had possessed a photographic memory, she muses, she might have attended a top university in Korea, instead of facing this life-threatening uncertainty. As her thoughts settle, the map before her begins to shimmer and fade away. In its place, a new interface appears, a menu labeled as the Ultimate Library. The sight of it captures her full attention, and she cannot help but wonder if the system can truly hear her thoughts and respond accordingly. The system provides an explanation. The Ultimate Library is described as a collection of books, the nourishment of the soul. It contains every book she has ever purchased or read in her lifetime, though it is limited strictly to those that were legally acquired. The implications of this revelation excite her. She immediately realizes that infinite returns to save the world must be included within this vast collection. With growing anticipation, she searches through the library. After a brief moment, she finds it, the complete set. Relief washes over her as she recognizes the significance of this discovery. With access to the full story, her chances of survival improve considerably, or so she believes. Armed with knowledge, she feels a renewed sense of confidence. Encouraged by this stroke of fortune, she begins to feel that everything she asks for is being granted. A spark of greed flickers in her eyes as she wonders what else the system might provide. She directs her thoughts toward it once more, asking if there are any additional benefits available to her. The system responds promptly, informing her that the transmigration insurance full package benefits have already been granted. This answer leads her to question the mention of cash, and she begins to wonder if it refers to actual money. Her curiosity is quickly addressed as another notification appears. The system states that, in accordance with the life insurance policy she subscribed to prior to her death, a death benefit has been issued. The amount is $120 million in cash. The sheer scale of the sum leaves her momentarily stunned. It is an overwhelming amount, far beyond anything she had ever possessed in her previous life. As she processes this information, another thought emerges. If cash exists within this system, then it likely means that an item shop is available as well. The possibility intrigues her. She begins to wonder whether she can truly use this money to purchase items that could aid her survival. At the same time, an odd feeling settles within her. The money she is about to use is, in essence, the benefit of her own death. The realization is unsettling, yet she cannot afford to dwell on it for long. Practicality overtakes hesitation. These resources, no matter their origin, are tools that will help her endure the dangers of this world. Ailette thinks that, Well, it is time to do some shopping. After all, she has 120 million in cash to spend. It seems that she can also purchase more cash down the road, and that is a relief. However, she knows she should be careful about how she spends it. One of the skills available is combat, a must-have for transmigrators in fantasy or martial worlds. She recognizes this as an essential purchase. This novel is of the highest difficulty, and she will definitely need a proper skill set. Since aura, magic, and divine power all exist in this world, she decides that she can choose one among them later. With that in mind, she scrolls further. Then she notices the blessing of rapid growth. She immediately thinks that she has to buy this as well. Once she chooses her skill set, she will need to level it up quickly. There is also a more advanced version of the item currently in existence, the blessing of extreme growth. However, it is not for sale. It is described as a blessing from the gods of the Transmigration Bureau, allowing her to gain 5 times as many skills. It is only available as part of the Transportation Insurance Full Package. Due to balance issues, it is a limited item that cannot even be purchased with money. Still, she already possesses a skill package that includes the Blessing of Extreme Growth and the Ultimate Library. She hopes these will help her survive the S-Class novel. The system then notifies her that the sequence of the world's loop has been set. Finally, she understands. She is in a universe with infinite loops. The sequence of the protagonist's loops is extremely important. Just as the title suggests, Infinite Return to Save the World forces its protagonist to painstakingly live his life over and over again. In each of his lives, the protagonist meets more people, only to be deceived and betrayed by them. The people around him see the kind and faithful Holy Knight as one thing, and one thing only, the perfect target for their manipulation. Each lifetime of loss and betrayal gradually corrupts the heart of the once kind-hearted protagonist. However, he also grows stronger with every loop. Ayelet wonders that if the protagonist has lived through many lives, then he will inevitably become stronger. The chances of him saving the world will increase, and the same applies to her own chances of survival. She focuses on the system again as it finalizes the setup. After the tutorial, the novel will be set to the 17th loop. She is completely taken aback. Despite how frustrating the novel is as a whole, there are a few lifetimes that progress rather quickly. One such case is the 17th loop. The reason for that rapid progression is simple. A mysterious enemy, who is only revealed in the final chapters of the novel, kills the protagonist dead at the very beginning. Ayelet feels as though she is on the verge of tears. She cannot understand why she has to be placed in this particular loop. Ayelet cannot help but question her own situation. Of all the countless loops, why must she be placed in this one? If the protagonist dies right after the novel begins, then who will kill the mysterious murderer, the most powerful being in this universe? Even if she somehow manages to save the protagonist, he only becomes strong enough around the later loops. She wonders if she can truly make this work, yet she quickly suppresses those doubts. She knows that she has no choice. She has to make it work, somehow. In the end, she decides that she will simply forget about the protagonist for now. If she wants to survive, she must become stronger. She can only rely on herself and the power of her skill package, the Blessing of Extreme Growth, and the Ultimate Library. She chooses to trust in those abilities. The system then announces that the initial guide is complete, and she is immediately assigned a new tutorial quest. This mandatory tutorial is described as extremely difficult. For a wholesale transmigrated life in an S-Class novel, the only way to survive such brutal conditions is to continuously improve her skills. She must train her mind, body, and soul if she wishes to reach the top 100 ranks in the novel's universe. Her survival depends on it. The requirements are overwhelming. Upon reaching rank 1000 or higher, her chances will improve, but even that is far from safety. The time remaining until the end of the tutorial is displayed clearly: 392 days, 12 hours, and 15 minutes. Ayelet finds herself thinking that, despite how long it seems, it may still not be enough. Failure in such an environment feels almost inevitable. Suddenly, the door bursts open. A woman rushes in, her presence sharp and intrusive. Ayelet immediately notices her natural hair and striking appearance, wondering who she might be. The woman declares that she knew she would find Ayelet here. Without hesitation, she turns and shouts to others that Ayelet has been found, accusing her of hiding. Ayelet is confused. She does not understand what is happening or why the woman is shouting so suddenly. Before she can process it further, a maid arrives and confirms that this is indeed where she has been. The maid calls her a lazy parasite, her tone dripping with disdain. The woman angrily demands to know what Ayelet thinks she is doing and orders her to go help in the kitchen. Ayelet is taken aback. She wonders if the woman truly expects her to work in the kitchen. Before she can respond, the maid grabs her and asks if she sees any other parasites around. She is told to come along immediately. At that moment, a man and a young boy enter the scene. The man speaks up, asking the woman to wait. He insists that Ayelet is too young to work in the kitchen. The boy, who appears to be her brother, agrees and pleads for leniency. Ayelet notices that he shares the same hair color as her. The man, presumably her father, continues, explaining that kitchen work is too hectic and demanding. He fears she might get hurt. It is then that Ayelet begins to understand these people. This must be her family in this world. However, the woman is not persuaded. She snaps at them, demanding to know why they are interfering. She orders the man to return to his duties and tells the boy to stop spoiling Ayelet. According to her, it is time for Ayelet to start pulling her own weight. The boy protests, pointing out that Nyla is already 11 and does not work either. This only angers the maid further. She retorts that Ayelet cannot be compared to her own daughter. Nayla will be trained to serve tea, not to perform hard labor. She refuses to let her precious daughter's hands be damaged. Her voice rises as she threatens to report them to the Countess if they continue to disobey. Tension fills the room. Naila approaches Ayelet and quietly asks why she is not crying today. She wonders if Ayelet is afraid of being slapped again. Hearing this, Ayelet begins to piece things together. If Naila has been hitting her, then at least she now knows who her enemies are. The headmaid suddenly declares that she has had enough. If this continues, she threatens to send Ayelet to the laundry room instead. This causes visible distress in her father, who knows how grueling the work there is. Even the strongest servants struggle under the intense heat and labor. At that moment, Ayelet steps forward. She calmly states that there is no need for further argument. She will help out in the kitchen. By now, she has a clear understanding of who stands on which side. It is time to start untangling this situation. She knows nothing about this family yet, but she does not want to see them suffer because of her. She reassures them that she will be fine, and even insists that she will do well. At the same time, she recalls that the item shop offers no direct combat skills. Instead, she decides to purchase something practical. She selects the skill, Descendant of a Master Chef. Immediately, several abilities unlock. Her cooking skill is set at level 1. Ingredient analysis becomes available. Advanced preparation techniques are unlocked. Skills related to enhancing flavor and recreating similar tastes are granted. Even the ability to keep the kitchen perfectly clean is included. Ayelet feels a subtle but undeniable change within herself. Power gathers in her hands, not the kind meant for battle, but something just as valuable in this moment. Now, she needs to put it to the test. She is seen cleaning the vegetables and then cutting them, while the other people in the kitchen are completely startled. Ayelet informs them that the meat, carrots, and broccoli are all ready. She has also peeled the garlic and onions and cleaned the king oyster mushrooms, leaving the bad ones on the side just in case. In addition, she has diced the beef and asks the other chef if everything is acceptable. The cream has also been whipped perfectly. Suddenly, she mentions to one of the chefs that her arms hurt and asks if she can take a short break. The chef agrees and tells her to sit down and rest. She sits and thinks with relief that she is finally getting a break. However, only 2 seconds pass before she stands up again and declares that she is done resting and will continue by cleaning up. The chefs present look at her in amazement. It is already impressive that she is doing everything so well, but what surprises them even more is that she seems to be enjoying the hard labor. Ayelet and Haley both think about her experience points, and she can almost feel them increasing. The chef, observing her, finds her incredibly adorable and begins suggesting that she should taste the dishes, noting that she is truly skilled and knowledgeable about ingredients. Ayelet responds with gratitude for the compliment and expresses that the food is tasty. The handmaid, witnessing all of this, is shocked, as she had not expected things to unfold this way. She had intended to make Ayelet do chores and then scold her. Meanwhile, the head chef asks Ayelet to come over and taste the cream stew. This request shocks the other chefs because the head chef takes immense pride in her work and never allows anyone else to taste her dishes. The handmaid protests internally, thinking it is ridiculous to let a child taste the food. However, the head chef dismisses her concerns, reminding her that Ayelet has been working hard and instructs her to leave the workspace. This causes the handmaid to flinch. She reluctantly tells Ayelet to proceed with tasting. Ayelet uses her skill, activating her sense of taste, and samples the stew. After slurping it, she concludes that it needs a bit more flavor and suggests adding some crushed pepper. The head chef observes this and smiles, clearly impressed. She then considers whether Ayelet would like to learn how to cook. This suggestion shocks everyone even more. As the head chef is known for her extremely high standards, and has now essentially offered to take Ayelet as her disciple. The head chef believes Ayelet is talented and sees no reason to let such potential slip away. Ayelet, on the other hand, innocently thinks that accepting would grant her a significant number of experience points, and, as an added bonus, it would make the handmaid extremely angry. Meanwhile, the head chef begins preparing for what will come next, as she plans to start teaching from the following day. She is told that she will be allowed to come to the kitchen by 7 in the morning, since she is still young. This immediately makes the other chefs realize that the head chef is making a rare exception just for Ayelet. Ayelet feels a surge of happiness at this, and eagerly agrees. Now she is seen mixing the batter, her movements steady and focused. One of the other chefs tells her to take it easy, warning that she will wear her arms out, and even offers to finish the task for her. However, Ayelet reassures them that she is fine and capable of continuing. She is so close to leveling up that she cannot afford to lose her precious experience points. The other chef remarks that Ayelet is incredibly hardworking and tells her to ask for help if she needs it. After they leave, Ayelet continues working on her own, still diligently mixing. This moment reminds her of her past life, when she used to work part-time jobs. She begins to wonder how this situation is any different from before. If she had known things would turn out like this, she might not have pushed herself so hard. She cannot help but think that if she had transmigrated into a proper childcare fantasy romance, things would be very different. By now she might have been a member of an imperial family, or perhaps a beloved infant of a secretly powerful duke and duchess, enjoying endless luxury and the affection of a perfect family. Still, she acknowledges that she cannot blame anyone else, since she was the one who brought this upon herself. At that moment, her brother arrives and calls out to her, saying that there she is and asking if she is all right. He wonders if everything is fine and apologizes for being late, explaining that his Lord History lesson has just ended. He adds that he will take over now so that she can rest, noting that it must have been hard on her. Ayelet insists that she is fine, but her brother does not accept that and urges her not to say such things. He tells her to come on and asks her to hand the task over to him, wondering what exactly he needs to do. Ayelet begins to explain that the first thing he should do when entering the kitchen is to wash his hands. However, before she can finish, she pauses, thinking that perhaps she should just let him handle things in his own way. Then, her attention shifts to his hands. She notices something unusual and begins to wonder if those marks on them are whip marks. During the break, she reads Infinite Returns to Save the World and comes across the part where the family is mentioned. It reveals that Prince and she are the children of Leonardo Rodolin, an elite alchemist who once worked at the Golden Ivory Tower, commonly called the Alchemist Tower. However, he is cast out after getting on the wrong side of those in power. Afterward, he is hired by a count who slashes his wages, taking advantage of the fact that he is a single father with 2 children. As an alchemist who knows little about money or loss, he ends up signing an unfair contract that transfers all his firstborn possessions to the count his children. Thus, the children become the count's servants. Ayelet becomes a maid who performs manual chores around the manor, while Prince is taken in place of the count's spoiled son. Prince explains that this situation arises because the young lord fails to answer the questions on his desk. He mentions that he is not beaten very much today, since he completes the homework for him. Hearing this, Ayelet cannot help but think that he is being treated unfairly. She cannot understand how they can do such a thing to him. She insists that this situation is unacceptable and believes he should present an ultimatum instead of enduring it in silence. She suggests that he should ask their father for help. However, Prince explains that their father would not allow him to continue attending classes if he learns the truth. He would rather endure the whipping if it means he can keep studying. This makes Ayelet question whether it would matter if their father remains unaware of the situation. Prince reminds her that she has already promised not to tell their father in exchange for pudding, which makes her realize that she has already been bribed into silence. She acknowledges that she cannot tell their father about it. With a sigh, she suggests that they should go to the laboratory later to look for some ointment. She adds that she will help apply it to his hands. This causes Prince to become teary-eyed. Noticing this, she wonders what is wrong. Prince reveals that she has not called him by his name since she was 4 years old. He reflects on how she has barely treated him as her brother, often finding him slow and tiresome, avoiding being around him or speaking to him at all. This makes Ayelet realize that her past behavior has not been kind. Prince, however, believes that working in the kitchen must have changed her. In response, she admits that all the hard work has indeed made her grow out of her previous attitude. She resolves to speak with him more often from now on and to forget her past transgressions. She assures him sincerely that she will not go back on her word. Hearing this, Prince smiles, feeling as though he finally has a real sister. He is not implying that she was ever a false sister to him. He is simply expressing his happiness, and that alone brings her relief. The last memory she has of her own brother is from when he was 12, so it does not feel strange to her either. Just then, a staff member approaches and tells them to wrap things up as it is time for snacks. Ayelet tells Prince that they should hurry and wash the dishes so they can eat. At that moment, Nyla enters with a snicker, mocking them for being assigned dishwashing duties. She remarks disdainfully that such work will ruin Ayelet's hands, while she herself is tasked only with preparing tea and snacks for the Countess. Her tone remains cutting, continuing her habit of speaking harshly to Ayelet. Suddenly, a translucent screen appears before Ayelet. It announces that the maximum experience has been reached and that her cooking skill has advanced to level 2. Along with this, new abilities are unlocked: sweet food desserts, basic desserts, and steeping fragrant tea. This development fills Ayelet with delight, as her skill has leveled up far more quickly than she expected. However, she pauses to wonder what exactly steeping fragrant tea entails. Before she can dwell on it for long, Nyla steps closer and speaks sharply, saying that Ayelet and her sibling are best suited for menial tasks. She demands to know whether Ayelet is even listening, criticizing her for spacing out. At that moment, Ayelet suddenly rises, and in doing so, she knocks into Nyla, causing her to jolt in surprise. Ayelet questions what just happened, and asks sarcastically whether Nyla's head is made of stone. Nyla, flustered and indignant, snaps back, calling her a dim-witted blockhead, as though reclaiming what she believes should have been her own line. Just then, one of the ladies intervenes and reprimands Nyla, telling her to behave properly. She points out that Nyla cannot serve the Countess while acting in such a manner. The lady then asks whether Nyla has finished reading the tea leaves as instructed. As Ayelet listens, she realizes that this woman must be responsible for the Countess's tea and desserts. With sudden determination, Ayelet steps forward and offers to steep the tea for their break. The chef looks at her with some surprise and asks if she truly wishes to take on the task. Ayelet responds that she does, explaining that she would like to serve tea for everyone who has worked hard alongside her today. After a moment, the chef agrees and allows her to proceed. Meanwhile, Nyla watches with disbelief, thinking to herself that Ayelet must believe steeping tea is an easy task. Soon, Ayelet begins preparing the tea, carefully following the instincts granted by her newly unlocked skill. The others watch her with curiosity as she works. When the tea is finally ready, she serves it. The chefs begin to react almost immediately. They are touched by the thought that the young girl has prepared something for them, and they express their gratitude, remarking that everything looks wonderful. One of them takes a sip and is instantly struck by the flavor, thinking that it tastes incredible. He questions whether this could truly be the same tea they are accustomed to. The tea lady, intrigued, says that she would like to try it as well. The head chef tells her to ask Ayelet directly. Ayelet approaches her and reassures her that there is enough tea for everyone. The woman takes the cup, examining it briefly before finally taking a sip. The moment the tea touches her lips, her reaction is immediate and intense. She jerks back and shouts at Ayelet, demanding to know what kind of foolishness this is. The tea lady calls out to Ayelet when the head chef comes in front of her and asks her not to be so harsh, reminding her that Ayelet is only a child and had merely been enjoying the tea. She wonders if the tea lady has gone mad. The tea lady says that she has seen as much as she can bear. She insists that Ayelet's hands are destined to make and serve tea, and yet she is wasting her talents working in the kitchen. If this is not foolishness, then she does not know what it is. This makes Ayelet think that, oh, so she was acting like this because she was moved by watching her serve. On the other hand, Nyla watches all of this with a stunned expression, wondering what in the world is going on. She had thought that Ayelet was going to get scolded, and she cannot understand why Madame is complimenting that good-for-nothing girl. The head chef suddenly shouts at the tea lady, demanding to know what this nonsense is. She reminds her that she has already taken Nyla as her disciple, but the tea lady insists that Nyla does not have any talent. She turns to Ayelet and declares that she will teach her how to serve tea, telling her that she can come find her at this hour from tomorrow onward. However, the head chef firmly refuses, declaring that Ayelet is going to learn how to cook in the kitchen. She insists that the girl is gifted and that she is going to make a great chef out of her. The two of them both grab Ayelet's hands at the same time and conclude that there is only one solution, which is that she should learn from both of them. Ayelet wonders if she truly can do that, and with that thought, she turns to look at Nyla, who is snickering while she nods to the madams, promising that she will try her best. This response makes Nyla so furious that she begins to scream. The scene then shifts to Ayelet going to the prince and asking whether he managed to find the ultimatum. He replies that he could not find any in their father's bag, leaving them to wonder what they should do next. Ayelet feels slightly taken aback by this, as there were not any at all. She had thought he would have plenty to spare, since he is a diligent alchemist, but it turns out that the handmaid always steals them to moisturize her skin or something similar. Ayelet wonders if the butler knows about this, but the prince says that he does know, and that they are all in on it. The butler, the handmaid, and the doctor as well. She keeps getting the feeling that her family has been taking advantage of her. Healers are rare in this universe. Divine powers manifest only in certain people, and when that happens, the religious orders monopolize the wielder, keeping them under tight security. However, healers can be substituted by the next best option, which is healing potions crafted by alchemists. What is more, Leonardo is a top alchemist from the Golden Ivory Tower. There is no helping it, the prince thinks, and says that he will apply it when he finds one eventually. She can see that even his back looks gloomy from behind, so she asks him whether the wound still hurts. The prince replies that it is fine, but it is just that she had said she would apply it for him, and now she has missed the chance. This makes Ayelet think that she will have no choice but to help him, if that is why he is upset. It seems like they have all the necessary tools and ingredients. She just needs one more thing, and that is to purchase the skill package Non-Combat Alchemy. She has chosen descendant of a great alchemist and has acquired alchemy. Now it is time to make healing on demand for her sweet brother. Her skills begin to get analyzed. Analyze alchemic ingredients, craft beauty creams for smooth and moist skin, and craft fragrant natural soaps. She realizes that she will need to be at a higher level to craft healing potions, but she does not mind. It works just as well, since she already knows a good use for soap and beauty cream. She asks the prince to give her one, and in exchange, she will help him apply healing on demand. When he says that they do not have any, she assures him that they will get one if he helps her. Eventually, it is evening time when Leonardo returns to his room. He looks around, wondering what in the world just happened. He puts the two of them on the bed, thinking that they must have fallen asleep after playing with his things. But then he notices something on the bed. There lies some kind of potion. He wonders what this is, and whether Ayelet really managed to craft something. He notices that she has written a letter saying that she is sorry for making them without his permission. The soaps are meant for the servants, and she asks him to give the beauty potion to the Countess as a gift. She assures him that the Countess will like it. This makes him think that a beauty potion as a gift is quite a clever idea. But Ayelet made all these potions by herself. He wonders if maybe she is a prodigy, but then he stops himself. He reminds himself that he should not make the mistake that every father makes, and that he needs to calm down. Her idea and efforts are commendable, but she has only just acquired the skill, so the quality cannot be that good. However, when he applies the lotion, he immediately feels a very cooling sensation. He notices the glow and elasticity, and it is not sticky at all. Instead, it feels refreshing. He knows nothing about beauty products, but he can clearly tell that this is amazing, which makes him think that his girl is a genius. He feels extremely proud of his little girl, and starting from tomorrow, he plans to teach her alchemy. A scene from Ayelet's past life unfolds. She is sitting quietly when she hears voices nearby. They complain bitterly, questioning why they have to take her in if they are not serious about caring for her. They argue that it would be better to send her to an orphanage or simply leave her there to die. Every word reaches her ears clearly, and she hears them all without missing a single one. Then someone steps toward her and tells her to get up, informing her that from now on, she will be staying with her aunt and uncle. The scene shifts to Ayelet lying down while sniffling softly. Suddenly, a pillow is thrown at her, and she is yelled at to keep quiet. She cannot sleep because of the noise around her, yet they still complain about her presence. They act as if it is not enough that she is living off them like Alice, calling her annoying and burdensome. Another memory surfaces. Her aunt once tells her that she surely understands that they are not doing very well financially, so she should not expect any support from them. Ayelet quietly agrees, responding obediently, yet she cannot help noticing how the same aunt and uncle behave differently toward their own child. They laugh together and enjoy themselves happily. At one point, she approaches them and asks if they are going to eat. Her uncle simply turns away and says that they have already eaten. The next day, her aunt comes home after going out to have fun. Once again, Ayelet asks if they are going to have dinner, but they tell her that they have already eaten, and then slam the door shut in front of her. They constantly claim that they are struggling to make ends meet, yet she cannot understand why they always dine out and enjoy themselves. The contradiction leaves her confused and hurt. Another painful memory rises. One day, she slams a savings book down in front of them. With trembling hands and suppressed anger, She declares that she knows everything about her father's and brother's death benefits, the settlement from the traffic accident, and even the money earned from selling their house. She knows that they took it all. Her uncle and aunt react coldly, asking what of it, and accusing her of being arrogant. They scold her, claiming that all she thinks about is money. Instead of acknowledging her pain, they insist that she should be grateful and thank them for taking her in. They shame her for speaking out and tell her that if she is going to behave like this, she should leave their house immediately. With those harsh words echoing behind her, Ayelet leaves the house. As she walks outside, her thoughts drift toward her father. When she sees a happy family passing by, laughter filling the air, tears begin to stream down her face. She cries helplessly and calls out for her father and brother, begging them not to leave her alone there. She continues to cry out again and again, her voice breaking with grief. The scene suddenly shifts back to the present. Leonardo grabs her hand as she continues pleading desperately, begging him not to leave her. He reassures her gently, telling her that he is right there beside her, and that she must have been having a nightmare. He assures her that everything is all right. Slowly, Ayelet opens her eyes and asks if it is truly him. He confirms that it is indeed him and promises that he will stay beside her until she falls asleep. He tells her not to worry and gives her his word that he will remain there. Eventually, she falls asleep. When she wakes up later, confusion fills her mind. She wonders why these men are holding one of each of her hands. As her thoughts clear, realization dawns upon her that it was not merely a dream. Embarrassment rushes over her as she realizes that she made a fool of herself. Still feeling flustered, she helps her father lie properly on the bed. Even after doing so, she remains wide awake. Since sleep refuses to come and shame keeps her restless, she decides that she might as well read the novel. As she reads, she remembers that the family was mentioned somewhere else in the story as well. Determined to find the connection, she flips through the pages until she finally locates the passage she is searching for. The text describes how the Count's spoiled son suddenly vanishes. A servant approaches the male protagonist and greets him politely. The servant introduces himself as one of the servants of the residence and asks for forgiveness on behalf of the Count's son for his rude behavior earlier. He then offers to guide the male protagonist to his assigned room, adding that it is one of the better rooms available for him to stay in. The male protagonist looks around the room thoughtfully. He notices that the space appears to belong to a lady and questions whether it is truly appropriate for him to stay there. Prince reassures him, telling him not to worry about it. He explains that the belongings in the room once belonged to his late sister. This line causes Ayelet to drop the book from her hands. Shock fills her mind as she thinks about the prince's late sister. A dreadful thought crosses her mind, making her wonder if she is going to die. She desperately tells herself that the story cannot possibly be that cruel. Refusing to accept it so easily, she quickly picks up the book again and rereads the passage, hoping she misunderstood something. However, the lines remain exactly the same. There is no change, no hidden meaning, and no misunderstanding. Her death is clearly confirmed within the story. As she continues reading, the prince explains to the male protagonist that there was a sealed dungeon deep within the castle. His sister had slipped and fallen into it, and that was how she died. The servant, overwhelmed with emotion, cannot continue speaking. Instead, he places his hand gently on his late sister's belongings, items he has never been able to bring himself to put away. This realization makes Ayelet think that this is her future. Once again, frustration fills her thoughts as she questions what is wrong with this castle. It is built in the worst place imaginable. Not only do dungeon bursts frequently occur in that area, but the castle itself is already sitting directly on top of a dungeon. She had known from the very first day that this would not be a simple or easy situation, but she refuses to sit still and wait for her death. Knowing the contents of the novel gives her an advantage, and she believes it will help her find a solution. With determination hardening her resolve, she decides that she will read every last letter of the novel and find a way to survive. Eventually, morning arrives. She shuts the book with irritation, feeling extremely angry after finishing it once again. Despite reading the entire story from beginning to end, the ending still does not make any sense to her. Her life in the story feels like a tragedy, and the protagonist suffers far too much throughout the plot. Frustration builds within her as she mentally complains about the author, questioning why the character must go through such unbearable hardships. It is not only the protagonist's life that feels miserable. Even if she somehow manages to avoid her destined death, she will still need a useful skill to survive in such a twisted and dangerous universe. At that moment, she realizes that it is finally time to use the package she had purchased. Without hesitation, she decides that she will choose a combat-related ability. After carefully thinking it through and rereading the book thoroughly once again, she comes to a firm conclusion. In this universe, healers are extremely rare, And within the novel, the protagonist suffered greatly because he could never find a decent healer. With that realization, she changes her decision. Instead of choosing simple combat ability, she decides that she wants to become a healer. She convinces herself that she must become the healer the protagonist desperately needs. Finally, she makes her selection. She chooses the soul of a legendary saint. Immediately after making her choice and acquiring a skill based on her selected role, divine power begins to manifest within her. However, just as she expects success, a notification suddenly appears, stating that the requirements are not met and that it is unable to proceed with the acquisition. The message instructs her to complete the prerequisite quest first. This unexpected result leaves her confused, and she begins to wonder what kind of quest she must complete. Soon after, a new scene unfolds. Ailette finds herself standing inside a church, holding a broom in her hands. She begins sweeping the floor, surrounded by dust and debris scattered across the area. There is an overwhelming amount of work to be done, and she realizes that someone truly should be cleaning this place regularly. She glances at the system. It states that 1,000 days of morning prayer, prayed with all her heart and soul between 5 o'clock to 7 a.m. in places of worship such as cathedrals, chambers, or temples, is required. The quest involves praying in the morning, and the blessing of extreme growth cannot help her with this either. She has no choice but to do it. She guesses that at least there is an abundant chapel within this castle. With that thought, she collapses to her knees and starts to pray with all her heart. For a while, she feels quite confused, wondering how she is even supposed to begin. In her past life, she has never been religious, so she does not know how she is supposed to pray with all her heart and soul to a god within her own novel. She feels deeply sad. She has tried, but she does not even believe in the existence of God. But then she pauses and thinks, wait a minute. Come to think of it, she has experienced the afterlife before. She has been told about some gods. With that realization, she starts to cry as she prays, begging the gods of the Transmigration Bureau to please bless her with divine powers. She continues doing so when the system announces that the morning prayer is in progress, and the current progress is 5%. She feels extremely glad that it has worked. Now it is time to pour all her sincerity into this. She continues to beg the god of the Transmigration Bureau, hoping that he is listening. First of all, he should know that she was abruptly transmigrated into this matter because of him. Anyway, she addresses the gods of the Transmigration Bureau, but she thinks that the name is far too long. She decides that she will simply call him TM God. She continues directing her thoughts toward TM God, questioning why he has brought her to this place. She reflects that she was just an ordinary nobody, happily living out her days. But then she remembers her aunt and uncle, which makes her realize that perhaps she was not all that happy after all. She asks TM God to hear her out. She still feels very angry about how her uncle and aunt pocketed all the money from selling her family's home, along with her father's and brother's death benefits and the settlement from their traffic accident. That is not all. They continued bothering her even after she moved out. They squandered all that money and kept asking her for money every single week. If she did not answer their calls, they would come to her semi-basement apartment. Just recently, they even forced her to look after their daughter because her academy was near her house. They even had the audacity to instruct her to feed their daughter meat dishes every single day. She admits honestly that she does not miss her old life very much. The only thing she regrets is not finishing all the novels and comics she had been reading. However, over here, there is a support system for transmigrators. She has insurance, stability, and above all, she is glad that she now has a family. Leonardo and the prince truly remind her of her father and brother. They even resemble them a little. She wonders why she feels so embarrassed when no one is listening anyway. Then she checks the progress again. When she speaks a little more, it has already reached 90%. She continues to pray even more earnestly. That is, right there is yet another problem weighing on her mind. Now that she is gone, her uncle is going to take her rent deposit. The thought fills her with anger, knowing that he is going to take something from her yet again. Everything she does somehow ends up benefiting them. Finally, after pouring out her sincere, heartfelt prayers with the soul of a legendary sinner, she receives a special reward. God Response has been activated. Some of the TM gods are now responding to her prayer. One morning prayer has been completed, but she continues to cry to God, feeling that everything she does ends up benefiting them. She feels bitter that her uncle jumped at the chance once again, even after all she has done to save up for that house, little by little, one step at a time. If she had known this was going to happen, she thinks she would have simply blocked him. Finally, she picks herself up, and the system speaks. The voice that shapes the world reassures her that her rent deposit was used to pay for the transmigration insurance. She wonders what this means. The system tells her that the voice that shapes the world is showing interest in her for transmigrating into the universe of his creation. The architect of the skyscraper of suffering has also heard her prayer, but is currently too busy designing a tower for an action novel. The critic for balance has also heard her prayer, and is preoccupied with criticizing the unbalanced difficulty settings across the many floors of the tower. She wonders what all these messages mean. There is something strangely familiar about them when she notices that the system states that some of the TM gods are responding to her prayer. This makes her wonder whether the gods can truly interact with her. Then she hears that the voice that shapes the world reveals that her cousin has moved out, but now spends her time drinking and partying all day. She probably will not get into a good school. This truly surprises her, since her cousin has already failed to get into college for 4 years now. The voice that shapes the world continues, revealing that her uncle invested everything he had into stocks that a friend recommended, but it turned out to be a pump and dump operation. He lost all his money and fell ill with grief. Her uncle and his reckless, foolish ideas always made her believe that such consequences would come back to bite him one day. Her aunt, meanwhile, recommended the same stocks to the people around her and collected their money for a lump sum investment. She is currently being sued for fraud. Ayelet thinks that, knowing her aunt, she probably spent all the money already, and now they are in serious trouble. She silently thanks the gods for telling her all of this. She does not know why, but hearing about their downfall lifts a heavy weight from her chest. The god who is interested in her seems friendly as well. However, the voice that shapes the world seems cautious around her, which makes her wonder why a god would feel cautious around her at all. The voice that shapes the world admits that he feels responsible for bringing her to the afterlife before her allotted time was up. This revelation makes her think deeply about the age of transmigration, wondering if these gods and their public infrastructure systems were responsible for the national crisis back then. The voice that shapes the world then confesses something important. There was a bug in the system that selects the souls of potential transmigrators. Instead of choosing only the souls of the dead, some souls of the living were also selected by mistake. She immediately stands up, feeling shocked, and questions whether this means that her death was caused by a bug in the system. The voice that shapes the world appears intimidated by her reaction and looks toward the eye overseeing all chaos. The voice that shapes the world blames the eye overseeing all chaos for poor quality assurance and demands that the auditor report to him. The eye overseeing all chaos hides its presence and curls up quietly. To Ayelet, these gods sound strangely like ordinary office workers. Never mind, she thinks. She is already here, so she is not going to ask them to return her to her past life. However, she wonders whether they might allow her to escape the 1,000 days of prayers as compensation for the bug. But the system immediately responds that skip systems have not been approved. Even if they are, they will require an astronomical amount of cash. She questions whether they can make her really strong instead, so she can fight the final boss. The voice that shapes the world observes her carefully, which makes her wonder if she is asking for too much. The one who shapes the world finally makes a decision. In exchange for making her strong, she must pray frequently to him. She replies that surely he is the creator of this universe after all. The one who shapes the world's eyes sparkle as he asks whether she is accepting this offer, and she replies that she guesses so, which makes her wonder what is up with this sudden enthusiasm. The voice that shapes the world smiles and declares that she is his first follower, which makes her wonder what he means. Finally, a golden light appears, and she realizes that she has started a religion for the voice that shapes the world in the continent of Serentra. As the first follower of the voice that shapes the world, she gains the love of the voice that shapes the world and the favor of the voice that shapes the world. She thinks that this is incredible. The architect of a skyscraper of suffering pauses in the midst of his work and shouts in horror at the head of development. The I.O. overseeing all cures sees what happens and tattles to the head of assessment in the next building. The scale that judges souls rushes over and trembles in fury at the fault, and the head of development shouts that she has started a religion first. She thinks that something big has just happened, but she has no idea what it is. Well, anyway, she trusts in Lord Voice, and she promises that she is going to be a faithful believer. Finally, on the other side, the Countess uses the potion that Ayelet has made, and she thinks that her skin actually feels quite good. The potion the alchemist gives her this morning is very effective. She had thought he was a sham, because all the strengthening potions he made for her son did not improve his swordsmanship. She supposes that he was not lying about having worked at the Golden Ivory Tower, but she wonders how he has never offered something like this before if he knew how to make it. She thinks about how foolish that assumption was. Finally, someone calls out, guessing that she should get a hand mirror. She has been so preoccupied with her face that she misses everything around her. The girl who appears is Bianca, the daughter of the Count. The Countess tells Bianca that it is not true, and questions where they have been. Bianca explains that they have been discussing the fate of this house. She believes that their grandfather was the last great swordsman in this family of swordmasters, and she thinks that letting her untalented and foolish brother become the next Count will only result in their downfall. She believes it would be wiser for her to take over as the family head and marry a capable knight to bring him into the family, and she asks the Countess for her opinion. The Countess thinks that Bianca is her daughter, yet she feels intimidated by her. She then points out that Bianca's brother is only 12, so she believes that they can afford to wait a little and see how things go. Just at that moment, the tea lady arrives and announces that their tea is being served. The Countess tells Bianca that she heard Bianca sent another playmate away this morning. She has lost count of how many times Bianca has done this, and she reminds her that she can simply tell them if she does not like them. Bianca explains that it is not exactly that. The real problem is that none of them fit her standards. Suddenly, her eyes widen as she stares at the dessert. The tea lady smiles and explains that it is an apple soup made by Leonardo's daughter. She praises the girl's talent in making desserts and mentions that she intends to take her under her wing soon. The Countess takes a bite and thinks that it has such a great flavor and suits their tastes perfectly. The Countess then asks whether this was truly made by the alchemist's daughter. She expresses that she was very satisfied with the beauty potion he gave her earlier today, and now his daughter has pleased her as well. She orders that the girl be given plenty of tasks in the kitchen. Bianca asks her mother whether she just mentioned a beauty potion. The Countess confirms that she did, explaining that she once believed potions were only good for healing, but little did she know they could also be used for cosmetics. Bianca thinks that Leonardo is a rigid alchemist who only studies standard kinds of potions, so she wonders why he would suddenly think about making beauty potion. The tea lady adds that Leonardo also gifted the servants some good quality soaps and was very proud of the fact that his daughter made them. Bianca then calls out to the tea lady and asks about the daughter of the alchemist, wondering where she is now. We see that Ailette is now in a garden, picking up some potatoes. She thinks that they look pretty. It feels sad to think that she has to work so hard in the afterlife as well, but it does feel nice to see the fruits of her labor. Suddenly, someone snatches the basket from her, and she looks at the person in confusion. The boy asks what she is staring at. She immediately thinks about who it is, realizing that she could identify him from a mile away. Black hair, expensive clothing, and that mean look on his face? He must be the Count's spoiled son. She tells Lord Romeo that the basket he is holding belongs to her, but he remarks that it is round and perfect. He then begins to throw and smash the tomatoes, hitting the workers with them. This makes her angry, and she thinks about what a typical little boy he is. Soon, he notices that he has already run out, so he orders her to get him more tomatoes and hurry up. She is a powerless maid and has to do what she is told, so she goes and brings him more tomatoes. Meanwhile, Romeo is having the time of his life, thinking about how much fun this is. He then turns to Ailette and asks whether she wants to try throwing them too. However, when he notices that she has given him a spoiled one filled with worms, he starts to cry, asking what in the world that is. Ailette tries to remain calm and apologizes, explaining that she was picking the tomatoes in such a hurry that she made a mistake. At the same time, she thinks to herself that this is exactly why he should never play with his food. Still, she guesses that she will have to console him. She tells him to stay still so she can wipe his hands clean. While doing so, she wonders whether they should return to throwing tomatoes. But he suddenly snatches his hand away, declaring that he does not want to do it anymore. He warns her that if she tells anyone about this incident, she will be in big trouble. The voice that shapes the world clicks its tongue and comments that the little villain is already very arrogant despite his young age. Ailette turns away and thinks that it is time to finish her kitchen chores. Just then, someone calls out to her. It is Nyla, who looks extremely angry. Nyla declares that she saw everything and accuses Ailette of getting all touchy-feely with Lord Romeo. Ailette asks whether Nyla really ran all the way here just to pick a fight. Nyla snaps at her to shut up and demands to know what she spoke to him about and why he walked past her without a word, pretending that he did not see her. Ailette sighs and wonders what this situation even is, realizing that Nyla seems to like the spoiled brat. More than that, she feels irritated that Nyla expects her to answer while speaking with such an attitude. She tells Nyla that she is not going to tell her, and this makes Lila extremely angry. Lila storms forward and yanks her roughly, forcing her to face her. She declares that Ailette should know her place. The voice that shapes the world cannot directly intervene to help her, and can only glare at Nyla from afar. Nyla states that she already knew Nyla was up to something the moment she volunteered to serve tea. She insists that she knows Nyla is after Lord Romeo as well, and she firmly warns Ailette not to even think about it. Eyelet already knows that Nyla does not like him, but that is not what she is after. Just at that moment, the Countess and Bianca arrive from the back. The Eye, overseeing all cures, wishes to see what Eyelet is capable of, while the scale that judges souls begins watching Eyelet after she comes over to get a file approved. Eyelet thinks about what a coincidence this is, while Nyla continues shaking her and demanding to know whether she heard what she said. Eyelet apologizes to Nyla, trying to remain calm. From what she understands, Nyla is planning to seduce Lord Thomas so she can become a noble, and she does not want Eyelet getting in her way. She concludes that Nyla must be right. Nyla snickers with satisfaction, clearly pleased that Eyelet has understood her intentions. However, Eyelet questions whether this plan is not too much of a long shot, considering that he is a noble and Nyla is merely a commoner. Nyla argues that it does not matter at all. She points out that the Countess used to be a commoner too, and there is nothing stopping her from following in those same footsteps. Those words make the Countess suddenly stop in her tracks. Eyelet asks whether that claim is truly correct and demands to know who told her such a thing. Nyla loudly insists that it is true, claiming that her mother said so. Upon hearing this, the Countess calmly steps forward and wonders aloud whether that is truly the opinion being held about her. At that moment, Nyla turns around and freezes, realizing too late that the Countess is standing there. She quickly admits that she had not known the Countess was present. The Countess coldly questions whether Nyla truly believes it is easy to become a Countess simply because she began life as someone of low birth. She remarks that it is not surprising for children to ramble about matters they do not understand, and she fixes Nyla with a sharp glare. However, she adds that Nyla's mother has no such excuse. With a decisive tone, she orders that both the girl and her mother be thrown out of the castle immediately. Nyla begins protesting desperately, insisting that she never meant any harm. As she is dragged away, she cries out in disbelief, unable to accept what is happening to her. Eyelet quietly feels relieved that the mission has been cleared. The Eye, overseeing all chaos, nods toward her in approval, acknowledging how easily she resolved the insignificant obstacle. Meanwhile, the Countess remains openly disdainful toward what she considers worthless fools. Bianca gently advises the Countess to look on the bright side. She reminds her that the headmaid had been notorious for her recruitment schemes and embarrassing scandals, and that removing her from the castle is ultimately a good outcome. The Countess then questions whether Nyla's mother had truly been the head maid. Bianca confirms that she had been, explaining that it had always been difficult to take action against her because of her influence. Still, she notes that no one could have predicted such an opportune occasion would arise. As she says this, her gaze slowly shifts toward Eyelet. Eyelet immediately wonders why Bianca is staring at her. She feels uneasy and decides that it would be safest to leave before anyone attempts to blame her for the situation. She politely excuses herself, explaining that she intends to return to the kitchen. However, Bianca suddenly stops her and insists that she remain. She then turns to her mother and expresses her wish for Eyelet to become her playmate. Eyelet stands frozen in place, staring at her in disbelief and wondering what exactly she has just heard. There is a rumor among the servants that being Lady Bianca's playmate is nearly impossible. Many other girls around Bianca's age are invited over to play with her, but every single one of them runs out in tears within the first 3 days. Some even scream and flee in terror at the mere thought of staying. Bianca tries to see them off gently, but the servants speculate that the gold-haired daughter of the Count is in the habit of bullying her playmates. The truth, however, is very different. Bianca never hates any of them. In fact, she desperately wants a friend. She hopes that Eyelet will not run away after a few days. Bianca knows that while Eyelet can read on her own, she still needs someone to play dolls with her. Bianca is not asking for much. She is far more lenient in judging her friends than she is with her future groom. All she wants is for them to be intelligent, possess a good personality, and share similar interests with her. She observes Eyelet and reflects that what she did in the vegetable garden has exceeded her expectations. The headmaid and her daughter sag with such an innocent look on Eyelet's face, but Bianca cannot be deceived by that smile. Eyelet's personality earns a passing mark, and Bianca resolves to test the other qualities as well. Just at that moment, Eyelet locks the door, and Priyanka lets her in. Eyelet enters, and Bianca welcomes her warmly. The next test Bianca intends to give is of her intellect. She announces that they are going to read, and Eyelet may choose whichever book she wants. Eyelet wonders if that is all they are going to do. She questions whether reading is what playmates do together, especially at 10 years old. But she notices that Bianca seems genuinely engrossed. It does not appear that Bianca is doing this simply to torment her. Finally, Eyelet opens the shelf and selects a book that looks interesting to her. Bianca allows her to read it. Eyelet thanks her and lies down to begin reading. After a while, she gets up and apologizes for disturbing Bianca. She asks if it would be alright to choose a different book to read. Bianca agrees, glancing at Ayelet before calling out to her and asking why she has picked the Bible. Ayelet thinks that she would need to understand the scriptures in order to fully appreciate literature, culture, and religion. Religion provides structured frameworks for the liberal arts, and countless works of art, music, and literature in her past life are all based on various religious foundations. To comprehend this book, she must learn about the religion of this place, though she has no clue what the people around her are discussing. At the climax, while Bianca believes she has pinpointed exactly what she needs to further her understanding, Ayelet's intelligence surprises her. Ayelet uses the Bible as a reference for knowledge, rather than simply following the heart. It flirts with comprehension for a moment, a spark that perhaps, back then, might have marked her as the one who could finally meet Bianca's exacting standards. Bianca asks Ayelet if she would like to play with dolls. Ayelet agrees immediately. Bianca reflects that they have been reading for 4 days straight, and thinks it would be nice to try something else. Ayelet's reply brings back memories from her past life playing with her brother, where compromises had to be made to suit both their tastes, and every game always ending in some galactic romance involving dolls and robots. Bianca decides to bring out the dolls and tells Ayelet to wait. When the dolls finally arrive, Ayelet admires how cute they are. Bianca explains the roles. The doll is the Duchess, and the teddy bear is the maid. She assumes the role of the fearsome Duchess and her maid, while the scenario unfolds around a crafty lover and a cheating Duke. Ayelet is assigned the role of the Duke, who has an affair with the cunning young lover. Ayelet senses something odd, but Bianca is already deep into her performance, calling the young lover a slave fox and asserting that she will punish her. She orders the butler to drag the accused to the culture chamber. Bianca's final test is to find a playmate with shared interests, a criterion no one has ever met before. Her peculiar tastes have always driven her previous playmates away, and they fled before Bianca could even bid them goodbye. Bianca's feelings are deeply sincere. That is why she takes 4 days to resolve herself to this play. She fears that Ayelet might run away like all the others. However, Ayelet is different. She insists to the Duchess that she has been framed, that the Duke is the one who seduced an innocent girl who had just moved to the capital. Knowing nothing of the ways of the world, nothing happened between her and the Duke because he lacks the desire for such matters. Bianca is completely taken aback by this. Ayelet emphasizes that she hopes the Duchess will see her as a victim of the Duke's false promises of marriage. All of this unfolds as Ayelet, an avid reader in her past life, draws upon her experience with countless genres of online novels, enabling her to navigate the complex social and narrative situation with insight and composure. The Duke vehemently denies the accusation, declaring that adultery is utterly beyond imagination and entirely impossible for him. He turns toward the Duchess with desperation, insisting that she knows his character well enough to understand that he could never commit such an act, especially not with someone from his own party. He pleads for her to release him, emphasizing that he does not even recognize the woman making the claim. Despite his insistence, the supposed lover directs her attention toward the Duchess instead. Expressing a dramatic plea for forgiveness, she claims that she wishes to dedicate the rest of her life to serving the Duchess as a way to atone for her sin. As a display of her supposed sincerity and determination, she declares that she will personally punish the Duke. Without hesitation, she begins dragging him away and proceeds to torture him, her actions shockingly intense and unrestrained. As this unfolds, Bianca observes the entire scene. The Duke is eventually reduced to a helpless state, collapsed on the floor, unable to endure any further. Ayelet expresses satisfaction upon seeing that he has finally fainted, and she casually asks Bianca whether she found the ordeal entertaining. Bianca, however, reacts in a way that contrasts sharply with the brutality of the moment. She drops the tools in her hands and reaches out to grasp Ayelet's hand. There is a visible shift in her expression as she realizes something profound. Ayelet is the person she has been searching for all along. She sees in her a kindred spirit, someone who might accept her true self without judgment. Ayelet, on the other hand, is momentarily taken aback by Bianca's reaction. She finds herself wondering whether Bianca had actually enjoyed the horrifying spectacle, including the Duke's blood-curdling screams. Meanwhile, Bianca expresses a desire to abandon formalities between them, suggesting that they should interact more casually when they are alone. Ayelet quickly agrees to this idea without much hesitation. This response fills Bianca with excitement, and she eagerly asks whether Ayelet would be willing to share more information about the torture devices she had mentioned earlier. Ayelet readily agrees, showing no reluctance in indulging her curiosity. Later, Ayelet finds herself within the quiet confines of a church. She directs her thoughts toward God, reflecting on how she had introduced Bianca to various medieval torture devices sourced from the Ultimate Library. She recalls how fascinating she had found those materials in the past, and notes that the Count's daughter seemed equally captivated by them. Although Bianca is somewhat peculiar in her interests, Ayelet acknowledges that spending time with her has been unexpectedly enjoyable. As the morning prayer continues, she becomes aware that its progress has reached 55%. She continues her internal dialogue, expressing gratitude for the knowledge she has gained from Bianca's books. She believes that through these experiences, she has come to understand much more about this world. Continuing on this train of thought, she raises a request to the Divine Presence. She wonders whether it might be possible to update the Ultimate Library so that it can also store books she reads after her transfiguration. She finds it somewhat disappointing that it currently contains only the books from her past life. In response, the voice that governs the structure of the world acknowledges her request and states that such an update will be considered. The voice that shapes the world sets a new chord upon the task, and this fills Ayelet with immense happiness. In response, she expresses her admiration, believing that he is truly the best. The voice that shapes the world, in turn, beams with quiet joy and expresses a desire to hear more about how she has been progressing. Ayelet shares that her cooking skills have now reached level 4, allowing her to recreate any dish she has previously tasted with confidence and precision. She further explains that her alchemist skill has advanced to level 3, and she has been diligently dedicating herself to learning how to serve well. At the same time, Madame Tea Lady continues to insist on sending her away to a duke, rather than allowing her to remain where she is. Ayelet cannot help but think that it would have been the perfect storyline if this had been a fantasy romance novel. However, she internally concludes that there is truly no hope for this family. She reflects on their circumstances, particularly considering their tomato heirling son, and recalls what Priyanka once said about him. Priyanka had remarked to Ayelet that, at this rate, their household would fall short of its long-standing reputation as a family of sword masters. She had pointed out that they had not produced an aura master for generations, and that the only way to restore the family's honor would be for her to become the head of the family and ensure that a highly skilled knight marries into it. This memory brings a sense of amusement to Ayelet, as she finds it remarkable that Priyanka, despite being only 10 years old, speaks not like a child, but like someone far more mature, both intelligent and endearing. Ayelet feels reassured, believing that if Bianca were ever to take the position of family head, the household would undoubtedly remain in capable hands. Yet this thought also leads her to question how such a sharp and perceptive girl exists within a family that has nonetheless fallen into decline. The scene then shifts to Bianca, who is seen smiling warmly at Ayelet, as though she had been waiting for her arrival. Ayelet wonders what they should do for the day, and Bianca suggests that there are new books in the library that she has not yet explored, as she had been waiting to go together. This suggestion fills Ayelet with happiness, and she once again feels that Bianca is truly the best companion she could have. Together, they make their way into the library. Bianca opens the door, noting that the librarian must be taking a break, and takes it upon herself to guide Ayelet through the space. She explains that she visits often and is quite familiar with the layout. However, as they proceed further inside, Bianca begins to sense something unusual, a faint but unsettling aura that seems out of place. Though she initially dismisses it, the feeling lingers. Ayelet notices Bianca's hesitation and wonders if something is wrong, but Bianca chooses not to dwell on it and instead suggests that they continue searching for a book. They begin looking through the shelves, focusing on books related to dungeons. Eventually, Bianca locates one she recommends. Yet, as they move deeper into the aisles, the strange aura grows heavier, darkening the atmosphere around them. The air becomes increasingly oppressive, as though something unseen is watching or waiting. At last, they stop before a particular shelf. Bianca points out the book she had mentioned, Dungeons of the Demon Realm. Even as they stand there, the unnatural darkness intensifies. Ayelet senses that something is not right, and begins to feel uneasy, noticing how unusually dim the surroundings have become. As Bianca reaches out and picks up the book, something extraordinary occurs. Within its presence, a gate begins to manifest, an otherworldly opening that slowly takes form before them. The gate continues to widen, its presence distorting the space around it. Before either of them can react, the gate fully opens, and in an instant, both Bianca and Ayelet are pulled into it, vanishing from the library as they are taken into the unknown beyond. Bianca finally opens her eyes, her thoughts clouded with confusion as she struggles to comprehend what in the world is happening. The moment her vision clears, she realizes that both she and Ayelet are no longer in the library. Instead, they find themselves standing in a graveyard, surrounded by an eerie stillness that sends a chill down her spine. Fear immediately takes hold of Bianca as she tries to make sense of the situation, recalling how they had only just been inside the library moments ago. The abrupt transition leaves her deeply unsettled, unable to grasp how such a thing could have occurred. At the same time, Ayelet begins to piece together what might have happened. Unlike Bianca, her thoughts move quickly, guided by a faint but growing realization. She concludes that they have most likely entered an underground cemetery, one that exists as part of a dangerous dungeon. More specifically, she identifies it as an A-class dungeon, a place far beyond what they should ever have encountered. This realization fills her with dread, as she understands the implications all too well. From her knowledge of the story, she can already tell that their situation is dire, and that survival is highly unlikely. Memories from the original narrative surface in her mind. She recalls how, in the story, a prince once handed the male protagonist the belongings of his late sister, explaining that she had fallen into a sealed dungeon hidden deep within the count's castle. As this memory aligns with their current circumstances, Ayelet comes to a horrifying conclusion. This is the very day her character was meant to die. Not only that, but both she and Bianca were fated to perish together within this very dungeon. The realization strikes her with overwhelming force, and she finally understands why Bianca never appears later in the novel. Meanwhile, Bianca, still shaken, quietly expresses her fear, recognizing that they are in grave danger. She wonders what they should do, recalling what she has heard about dungeons, that escaping them is impossible without first defeating the dungeon master. The thought alone is enough to deepen her panic. In contrast, Ayelet attempts to remain composed and reassures Bianca, insisting that everything will be fine and that they will be protected. However, Bianca reveals that she does not share such beliefs, identifying herself as someone who does not rely on faith. Despite this, Ayelet continues to insist that trust is necessary, holding firmly to her conviction. In that moment, the voice that shapes the world suddenly appears, drawn by the urgency of the situation. Ayelet feels immediate relief upon his arrival, believing that her god has finally come to rescue her. However, her relief quickly turns into frustration as she questions the fairness of what is happening. She points out that the difficulty of the novel was supposed to be tested during the tutorial phase, yet they have somehow been placed into an A-class dungeon. To her, this can only mean that there has been some kind of error. The voice that shapes the world reacts sharply, flinching at her accusation before firmly denying it. He insists that there are no system bugs within a universe of his own creation. Ayelet, however, does not back down. She claims that she trusts him, yet continues to argue that this situation must be a mistake. She reasons that the entire purpose of a tutorial zone is to prevent unnecessary deaths, making their current predicament completely illogical. The voice that shapes the world grows more resolute, strongly rejecting her claims and declaring that such a mistake is impossible. His unwavering denial only deepens Ayelet's distress. She begins to question whether this was part of his plan all along. The thought unsettles her deeply, as she considers the possibility that he is deliberately forcing her into yet another death. She reflects bitterly that being made to die young and transmigrate once was already too much, yet now she is being pushed toward death once again. As these thoughts spill out, the voice that shapes the world becomes visibly shaken. Hearing such accusations from his most devoted follower causes him to panic. As he struggles to respond to her anguish and the growing tension between them, she declares that the moment has come to firmly establish her point, demanding compensation for the bug. Her demand is clear. Either the dungeon must be made easy to clear, or she must be granted overwhelming power instead. The voice that shapes the world falls into deep contemplation, seemingly weighing the request with great seriousness. As this silence stretches on, the tension in the air thickens. The sound of approaching monsters echoes through the dungeon corridors, sending a chill down Bianca's spine. She flinches instinctively, her fear becoming evident, while Ayelet urges the unseen entity to hurry. Despite the urgency, the voice that shapes the world remains lost in thought, unmoving and unresponsive. At last, a decision is reached. The voice that shapes the world grants her a new skill. As she begins to examine the skill window, her expectations are completely surpassed. The ability she receives is far beyond anything she had imagined. At the same time, the system itself reacts, criticizing the imbalance, while something akin to the head of development is metaphorically dragged into responsibility and forced to issue a formal apology.